everybody. Welcome back to the Two Peas in the Podcast, episode 19. We are getting there, kids. We are building them up bit by bit, that is for sure. Thank you for joining us again and being here again for another awesome chat. I'm sure it will be. For those that don't know us, my name is Katie. I am based here in the UK, and my very glamorous, gorgeous co-host is...
Hi guys, my name is Jessica and I'm here in America.
Yes, besties for life. Even though we're on different continents, she's my girl, I'm her girl. Life is good, right? I don't know how we would cope with life without each other.
I don't know. Honestly, when I say that, you've been such a fundamental part of my life, I do not know. I don't like when I'm feeling morbid, I try to think of what would life be if Katie wasn't here? And it's like, no, I don't want
No,
to think about it.
no, that's not the rabbit hole we want to go down. Definitely no. Bless you. But anyway, look, today's going to be a good one. It's interesting because neither of us are really in this mindset right now. So it's going to be an interesting chat. And maybe it's a chat we both need today. Maybe that's why I picked it, right? But we're talking about self-love. Why I picked it is because I know how fundamental it is, and certainly it has been on my journey, which we'll get into. But I also have seen how fundamental it is for a lot of people I work with. So I'm interested. I think it's a really interesting topic,
Yeah, I think it's so critical because life is hard. And, we don't have anybody that, besides when we're a child, and sometimes not even then, we don't have anybody coming in and saying, hey, get up, believe in yourself, brush your teeth, take care of yourself, get a shower. It's on us. So if we don't love ourselves, we don't make ourselves a priority, it's not good. So it's a very valid topic.
Yeah, so true. I was laughing yesterday with my mom and I said, the best thing about being an adult is you can have what you want to eat. The worst thing about being an adult is you can have what you want to eat.
Yeah.
The responsibility, and that's the thing, being an adult, it's a lot of responsibility. And it's not just go to work, earn the money, pay the bills. It's all this other stuff that is our responsibility that perhaps doesn't always get the attention and the focus, but is absolutely critical. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. And again, as always, interested to hear what people's take on this and, their stories, but we'll get to that point towards the end. So, when I was, that we like our research on this channel, we like a bit of a statistic, we like a bit of, background information, just because it's interesting, right? That's what we do. And if you've been watching us and following this podcast, you know by now, one of us will come with data. And today I was like, I wanted to share this. It's funny because I didn't actually find this for this podcast. I found it in the week for something else, but I was like, oh, must remember that because that actually links. So there is a well-known store called The Body Shop. They do lots of skincare, bath care, all that good stuff. And back in 2020, which, by the way, does not that feel like about 300 lifetimes ago at this point?
Yeah.
I know, right? It's like 5 years ago. What? It's insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Anyway, maybe they're talking about 2020 is a different podcast. But anyway, we'll part that one for now. But they did the biggest study ever of self-love. And it's called the Global Self-Love Index. It happens, like I say, November, December 2020. And in terms of its size, they interviewed 22,000 people in 21 different countries,
Wow. Okay.
which makes it so significant because normally these things are done to like a very small number of people. So, and as somebody who's studying psychology, I see studies are not always valid, and it's important to get a really good overview. So, yeah, they were looking at, obviously self-love and people's relationship with it, a relationship with themselves. So the survey, the results are really fascinating. Which country, yeah, pop quiz, which country do you think came up top for self-love?
France?
No, it's Denmark.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel like I was kind of close there.
But, and this will cheer you up, US, third,
Okay.
which surprised me, right? I was not expecting, but maybe, I don't know, it depends what you define as it, I suppose. But I was expecting the US to come up that high.
Yeah. Well, what was the UK?
I think it was number, can't remember now, 15 or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, girl.
But the lowest were South Korea, Saudi Arabia, and France, funny enough. And again, why and what happens. I mean, anyway, it's interesting. So, blah, 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 blah. 47% of women in the UK feel they are no good at all, compared to 27% of Brazilian women and 72% of women in the UK often wish their body was different. The UK has an interesting relationship with self love, and I don't know whether that's to do with the culture. America, I don't know, but I'm generalizing right now. I'm aware. But I know America, there is this thing of like, you can live your dream. You can be whatever you want to be. It's real Barbie, right? You can go and do all the things and believe in yourself. And it's in the UK, it's a bit like, don't get too big for your boots, right? Don't be arrogant. Keep it small. I don't know whether that has to do with it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I feel like that might be from the outside perspective looking in of America, because I feel like a lot of us do feel held back here and like, the American dream was kind of a lie,
Hmm.
something that we were fed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting. And of course, a lot of celebrity culture, of course,
Oh,
because
for sure.
Hollywood is so dominant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which obviously has an effect. I mean, I was thinking back, and I know we'll get into it, but you and I are of an age where we remember the early 2000s and that real kind of thing on women to look a certain way. I don't know what it's like in America, but there was a magazine here where they would literally do Ring of Shame. They'd have celebrities, not just UK, but American celebrities, and they would do like if you could see a bit of cellulite or a bit of a body roll at the stomach, and it'd be like ring of shame.
No, I don't know if there was anything like that here, but that sounds incredibly toxic.
Yeah,
I
and
know that there
calling,
was a problem for a while with paparazzi photographing women as they would get out of the car, and then they would get, of course, crotch shots
yeah,
because of that, and then shaming the woman because she was having her picture taken against her will and she was getting out of a car. It was like a whole thing that happened. Thank goodness the world has kind of evolved in some sense where that is totally not acceptable anymore.
yeah, I agree. I agree. But if you think back to how they treated like Britney Spears,
Yeah.
Jessica Simpson was considered fat, which is ridiculous.
The thing with Britney Spears, which always got me, was that, when she lost it and shaved her hair off and beat the crap out of a paparazzi with the umbrella, I felt her in that moment. Like, I was not like, wow, this girl's losing it. I was like, well, yeah, that seems like an appropriate reaction. I mean, paparazzi is following you around, taking pictures. You're all over the news. It's stressful. You just want to be left alone. They won't leave you alone. It's like she lost it. She's human, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely, completely agree. And there's some really interesting documentaries on that whole time. Around, I mean, one of them's on Netflix, I'm sure. So anybody's interested and missed it all, I'm sure you can go and find out all about it. But it's so prevalent in our culture. I'm sure people have a good understanding of what went on. But no shocker, women are more likely to have low self-love and self-confidence than men.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise, right? The three causes for low self-confidence in women: financial status, not achieving their goals in life, and their looks. So one would think that looks would be first. It's not, it's third,
Yeah.
which actually surprised me because we're so kind of guided on what we should, quote unquote, look like, and feeling not good enough and feeling like don't get older, don't get fat, don't get this, don't get that. But actually, money is the big driver.
Yeah. Well, you know, you need money for everything,
Yeah.
so that makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was fascinating, and there's more about it on Google. If you put in global self-love index, it will come up, and you can look at the stats. And they really break it down, many different things. So go and check that out. But the reason I found it interesting, I think, is because when you're in a place of not liking who you are, you have a tendency to think it's just you.
Yeah.
Everybody else has got their shit sorted out. Everybody else is doing good, and you're the broken one.
Yeah.
you know. So
Mm-hmm.
before I dive into my story, I'm interested because obviously I know my story. Um, how do you What's the question? Where are you right now with it?
With self-love,
Yeah.
I think I'm at a way better place than I was.
Okay.
Like I feel like I've made a lot of progress. Um I of course still have doubts, and a lot of that can be, I feel like, surrounding, coincidentally enough, finances. Even though I find myself to be doing pretty well, I never feel like I'm doing enough. I
Yeah.
never feel like I'm working hard enough, that I'm achieving enough. I try not to fall into that game of comparison, especially with being a content creator full time. It is such a toxic work environment. I don't feel like it's talked about enough, because it's constantly like, pleasing the people and making sure everybody's happy and satisfied and what you're posting and how you're coming off and what other people are doing in your field. And it's like, it's always where it's you versus everybody else. And most times you are the last thing that you're worried about.
Mm.
There's been a lot of times, which obviously, where I've posted and not really felt like posting.
Yeah.
Posted because I felt like I had to.
Yeah.
Put on the personality of being funny and laughing and making jokes and doing all the things that I don't really feel like doing, but that's what the people want,
Yeah.
you know? So it can really actually like damage your self-esteem and your sense of self-worth and how much you love yourself. But as far as like other aspects of self-love, I feel like I've gotten a lot better. Like I do believe in myself a lot more. I
Yeah.
stand up for myself a lot more. Not as hard on myself as I have been in the past. So
That's the thing. And I definitely see the growth in you. Absolutely. I mean, we've been best friends, for those that don't know, for nearly 11 years at this point. And I see your growth and progress in that time. But of course, I didn't know you before that. So I feel like there was a time in your life that I haven't seen where it was pretty bad. That's what I pick up on.
and I think that like it probably was just standard for, I feel like, what very similar to what you went through. You know how like when you're growing up as a young woman, you're just so consumed with your looks and, attracting boys and, being this, being that, being popular, fitting in. Like that's pretty much the story. Um I think my journey of self love started at a very young age because I grew up as the only person of color in my family. Like
Mm.
my entire family, not just, my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister, but my entire family. I was the only one that had anything other than white, or even though my mom's family, we have strong Native American, but it's just white, whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, it's different now because everybody for some reason has gotten with somebody Spanish, so we all have like Spanish grandchildren and cousins and stuff, but at the time when I was growing up, I was the only one that had anything else. So even though I don't think I was treated differently to a degree that would be traumatic, I do feel like I was treated differently. And I think that being able to visually see the
Yeah.
differences between me and my siblings, my siblings, blonde hair, blue eyes, I'm the only one that's different. It's like I always felt different, always felt
Yeah.
not good enough, or felt like I had to overcompensate. We've talked about a couple times on the podcast, and I've mentioned like how I always felt like I needed to be like invisible or be quiet because I didn't want to cause problems. I grew up in a really like tumultuous type of environment where there was always fighting. There was always people saying things that they probably shouldn't say to each other. And I already knew before I got into this podcast that we were going to get vulnerable. So I'm already like prepared to talk about all this stuff. But just like watching my parents fight, hearing things, when my dad would get upset, because my dad used to be really like a heavy alcoholic. He's not as much anymore, but he at one point was really bad. And he was like very verbally, you know,
Yeah.
what some people would say abusive. And so being told things and hearing things about yourself from such a young age, some things stick with you, you know?
Absolutely. 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 I see, and I know details because we obviously spoke about it privately, and I know how rough it was there for a while. So, the fact that, you are as grounded and as a place in your life where you are now, I think is real testimony to you because and it's very easy. I think people go, oh, well, everybody rises themselves up, everybody gets through it. People don't, and I think what annoys me now more than, well, not more than anything, but a lot of thing that really grinds my gears is when people say things like, I'm so thankful for my trauma because it made me the person I am. And
Yeah.
no, it didn't. You made you the person that you are. Your
Yeah.
resilience, your strength, your determination, that's who the trauma obviously was a catalyst to show you the person that you are, but you wouldn't have got through it if you weren't you.
Yeah, trauma is definitely a catalyst, but not the end all be all, and not the only reason that people are where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that I'm a lot more grounded than I was, but I feel like some people will probably disagree. But those are the people that pushed the bull and got the horns. You know what I mean? Um, I am learning every day how to continue to regulate my emotions because that's one thing that's always been really hard for me. Um, and I can be very self-protective, so I can be the type of person that like cuts people off very quickly because it's self-protection. Like I know where this is going or I see where this is going, and I don't want to go down my own shame spiral because
Yeah.
one of the things about me with learning how to regulate my emotions is learning that my emotions are not anything to be ashamed of.
Mm.
Like if I get angry or if I get sad or I get upset, it's nothing to feel ashamed about. It's something to process, figure out how we can maybe, reel that in a little bit better next time, but also determine why I was feeling those, that way.
Yeah.
For me, I've had, which we've talked about a couple times, I've had anger issues for the majority of my life. Just ever since I was young, I just had this rage inside of me. But part of anger issues that people don't talk about is the shame spiral, because you get angry, you say or do things that you regret later when you're calmed down and you're thinking rationally, and then you feel ashamed and you feel guilty. And it becomes so much less about what caused that reaction and so much more about the reaction itself, and then beating yourself up and blaming yourself for it. One of the things that my therapist told me, because I had had a conversation with him like after a most recent time where I had to like disconnect myself from somebody, and I told him exactly what happened, and he's like, to be honest, I'm looking at this as growth because you didn't explode. You were angry, you're upset, but you said what you needed to say. You expressed why you were feeling the way that you were feeling, and then you did what was best for you.
Mm.
So that's growth. He's like, there's nothing wrong with, if you're upset, expressing yourself. You're not being abusive. You're not calling people names. You're not cussing out their parents. You're not doing, these are things that I would have used to do. Like I would used to like cuss people out when they would make me upset, but I don't do that anymore.
You don't. Like I say, that thing, talk about growth. I've seen that because when we
Mm-hmm.
first met, you were, yeah, absolutely. You could cut anybody down to size. And you tell me some stories and I'd be like, listening to the voice message being like, whoop. And you don't do that anymore.
No,
And
because it doesn't.
you'll come on to voice note and moan about it to me, but you won't talk about it.
Yeah, I don't tell them. And honestly, I'm not as like vicious with
No.
my tongue as I used to be, even when I'm talking to you. Like, yeah, I get upset at people, but like I don't like berate them or anything
No.
because it doesn't make me feel better. That's the thing.
Exactly. And that, as somebody who, as you know, coaches, I mean, first thing is there's a massive difference between shame and guilt. For everybody watching this, guilt is I have done a bad thing. Shame is I am the bad thing. You are personalizing it. You're making it about you. And they're not always hand in hand. One can lead to the other, but da da da. The other thing is that your emotions are just messengers. They're just giving you information. Your brain is giving you information to pay attention to something, right? And
Mhm.
anger is normally, I mean, I know there's variations, but basically it is somebody has overstepped my boundary and disrespected me.
Yeah.
And so anger in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's what you do with the anger that's the issue. And if it becomes a weapon to hurt other people, then it becomes problematic. But you think about big movements and changes in the world and society, they've been fueled by people that are angry. So,
Yeah.
positive anger, productive anger, proactive anger is never a bad thing. It's when it becomes the weapon.
Yeah. And I think being less reactive with any emotion
Yeah.
and being more observant. And then, communication is big for me. So
Uh,
whether I'm, happy, mad, sad, whatever, I feel like communicating is good, saying what I need to say, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I feel like that's been a big part of, I know people watching are probably like, what does this have to do with self-love? Again, because it's part of my shame cycle and
Yeah.
spiral that I've been through.
Yeah.
Obviously there's other things with self-love that I've battled, like, my looks, how I talk, how I speak, just, I feel like a lot of people go through that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you for being vulnerable and being honest, because we always said when we would show up and be authentic in this space, because we can't expect other people to, start helping themselves and to start having self-awareness if we're pretending that everything's sunshine and rainbows, because it's not,
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure people will resonate with it. One thing, by the way, just before we move on, one tip my therapist gave me was that when you're feeling an emotion, is to disconnect physically from that moment, because your brain then has a chance to kick back in. Your logical brain can then kind of go, whoa, hang on a second, let's just think about this for a minute before you react.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, literally, example, my someone I knew, let's call him that, he's one of my trigger points, and would put me in a space, as you know, of trauma response. So, for those that don't know, trauma response is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Right, I'm a fawner. I am the ultimate people pleaser, as Jess can contest. I will do anything to keep the peace and make people happy. Um, and so he would put me into that space, and I was getting really annoyed in therapy, because I'm like, but I understand why, and I understand what I'm doing, and I understand why it's a problem. Why can I not do it? Right? And she
Right.
said, "Kate, how old are you?" And at that point, I think I was 42. And she said, "Right, so you've got 42 years worth of learned behavior. Why do you think you're going to change it overnight?" And I was like, yeah, I know. And she said, when you feel yourself going into it, like I say, break the connection. So the next time that I was triggered, I didn't, it wasn't, it's funny enough, it wasn't a deliberate conscious thing on my part. Literally had to go into a different room to get something. But that break of a few seconds was enough for my brain to go, hang on a minute. Whoa, hang on, let's think about this rationally for a minute. So anyone who's watching, I found is very helpful as advice.
I think that for you, one of the reasons why you probably were like, why can't I, is because you do this for a living.
Yeah,
Like you help to be fair, both of us do. We help people, we coach people, you know, and it's funny because one of the things that the person who helped me get he was my instructor for my life coaching certification, Mr. Kane Ramsey. One of the things that he said was that you don't have to be perfect and 100% healed to be a life coach. You just have to have been in that pit and gotten yourself out once.
yeah,
If you've been down and you've gotten yourself out once, then you can help other people get out too.
yeah,
Like being a life coach, or even a healer, a light worker, whatever name you want to put on it, is not like a badge of honor that's like, I'm perfect and I have no problems and everybody see you want to be like me. I'm the prototype. Like that's not what it is.
no, I totally
It's,
agree.
I think more it's you and me are the same.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. I love that. It's definitely a good takeaway for people. So what's interesting with our stories, although they have similarities, obviously they have differences, is that you can identify that your family setup and your ethnicity had a massive effect on how you felt about yourself, because you saw the differences, right?
Yeah.
With me, that's what makes it so interesting, I think, is that, not counting your experience, is that there was no reason.
Mm-hmm.
None. There wasn't, like, I can't give you a reason why. I wish I could, and I spent a length talking to my mum about it, because she was trying to find a reason, something to feel guilty about, bless her. And there isn't one. Now, is maybe there's a past life thing, which, we've done an episode on past lives, which was, it could be, maybe, I don't know. But there is no tangible reason in this lifetime why I came in with low self-esteem, low self-worth, and low confidence. No.
Yeah.
I am an only child, and I was planned and I was wanted. And yes, my parents divorced when I was 8, but it never they still kind of let me know that they loved me and that they were there for me and, all that stuff. So it was not like, oh, severe trauma or anything. It just, that's how I've always been. And yet, the fauna in me, you wouldn't know. You would never have known on the outside, because on the outside, I am this amiable, friendly extrovert who just makes people laugh and whatever. But inside, I was wobbly jello. I was just like a mess and overthinking, convinced no one liked me, convinced I was getting it wrong. God, it was. Tell you the one thing about not liking yourself, it's exhausting. It's so tiring. It's like it's on your
Yeah.
brain constantly, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly from there, going into, as I spoke about before, I went to an all girls high school, which I don't think is a healthy environment for students. I don't. I think it just causes issues from my experience. And certainly for me, it was awful because I was bullied for 4 years, which just verified how I felt about myself.
Yeah.
And then enter stage right, boys and men.
Yeah. Which doesn't help.
Which no, I mean, I've written about this when I did my memoir, but I really believe for a long time, which I wish I could go back. And I used to say I wish I could go back and slap myself, but I wish I could go back and hug myself now, because my heart aches when I think about her, that
Yeah.
version of me. She genuinely believed, like, and this is not just something to say, genuinely, hands on heart, believed that unless she was in a relationship, she had no sense of worth at all. She got her worth and validation through being in a relationship because somebody liked her.
Yeah.
Isn't that sad?
I mean, no, I think it's human, you know? Um, and I think that a lot of people can relate to that. I think a lot of people probably feel the same way. Whereas I didn't struggle with that until later in life with guys. Because at first I wasn't really interested in guys and boys. I read a lot about it. Obviously we talked about that in the last podcast. But for me, it was more like getting my parents to approve of me, getting my teachers to approve of me, my friends. So same, but different.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, and everything has an impact. So for me, because I didn't like the person I was and didn't value myself, I then attracted people who mirrored that back to me, because we're all mirrors of each other, right? The law of attraction states that how you feel about yourself, you will attract people who give that back to you. So
Mm-hmm.
I attracted men into my life and that weren't great. And I can say that very honestly. Um, and you kind of accept it because you're just grateful that somebody likes you. You don't stop and think, do I like them? Is this a healthy relationship? You're just like, oh my God, so he likes me. Oh, and then you're in the relationship and it's not great, but you kind of put up with it longer than you should because you don't really believe you deserve better. And that is better than nothing, even if it's crap.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I definitely experienced that like when I started getting into boys and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, one of the things was being chosen, like you had said, um, somehow made me more deserving. It's such a weird thing. And unfortunately, I do feel like not all men, we're generalizing here, people,
Yeah.
but I feel like some men really play into that because I think that even though guys don't maybe talk about it a lot, I suspect that men have very low self confidence and self esteem too. So
Sure.
being chased, being fawned after, being treated like they're the prize does something for their ego. It does something for their own self confidence.
Yeah,
Because a lot of men growing up are compared to their fathers.
absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. I'll tell you a story. I don't know if I've ever told you the story. I probably have in passing, but this really kind of shows all of this in a nutshell, right? So when I was 15, I started dating the brother of my best friend at the time. And he was a couple of years older than me. And so, of course, when you're 15 and you've got a 17-year-old boyfriend, you just think you're like, look at me, aren't I fabulous, right? And in hindsight's a beautiful thing, is that to him, I was just a distraction. I was a plaything. He wasn't into me, really.
Yeah.
Um, Especially because him and his ex-girlfriends had broken up a couple of months prior to that. So I was just, it wasn't into me at all, really. And of course, but for him, like you said, it was an ego boost because I was like a puppy. I
Yeah.
was like a fawning, needy, like me puppy that just followed him around with like doe eyes and just thought he was everything, which is great for the ego initially. But of course, after a while, that's annoying, right? You want somebody who's got a bit of life about them, a bit of backbone. You don't just want this limpet that's like stuck to your leg, right? So he finished it. And I was devastated because remember, I'm 15. So this is like the end of the universe, right? I'm just like, woe is me. You know, that scene like in movies where they throw themselves on the bed and they're like broken, like ugly. What's wrong with me? Now, what happened next is this is what I want to talk about because this demonstrates it beautifully. So now I go, okay, well, I'm upset. We'll feel it. We'll move past it. We'll move on. No, in my brain at 15, because of course you make all the best decisions in your life when you're 15, right? 15, like
Right.
you know everything. I was like, I need to make him jealous because if he sees me with somebody else, he's going to see how wonderful I am and then he'll want me back, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so he needs to see me get out with someone to be jealous, right? So I decide at 15 to start dating his friend, who's 21 at this point. Not a smart decision, but he had a car. And
I'm questioning some of these men with
I know, me too. And now that I
swimming
have a
around the
daughter,
kiddie pool. Like, why are they?
exactly. Now I have a daughter of 13. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I am totally like, this is not great energy. But when you're 15, you don't think like that. You just think, you're awesome and they like you. But he had a car, which was a plus. His hygiene was not good and he sweated a lot and didn't look after himself. So he was a stinky fat. Let's call it what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but in the front of the car, I can't, God, think of saying this out loud now. It's just so stupid. In the front of the car would be him driving with me in the passenger seat, and in the back would be my ex with his new girlfriend. And we'd be driving around. And I thought, this is going to make him jealous, seeing me with his friend. He didn't care because he had his tongue down this other girl's throat. But I was convinced that my plan would work, right?
Yeah.
Well, of course it didn't. And after a few months, I just accepted it. I was like, this isn't working. I got frustrated. And so I decided to call it off with the 21-year-old. Now, in hindsight, again, I had been totally self-facing. I've been thinking about me, which a lot of 15-year-olds do, of course. I didn't really think about him and how he felt about me at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, in my ultimate wisdom, that I would invite him around to my parents' house where I lived at the time, obviously, while they were out to tell him while I was home alone. Not smart. 21-year-old guy who at this point I'd only kissed is invited round to his girlfriend's house while she's home alone. Not smart, right? Because, of course, he obviously had expectations of what I really meant. I didn't tell him I was calling him round to break it off with him. I just invited him round. So what's he going to think, right?
Yeah.
So if we sit down and I tell him that I'm not interested anymore, I didn't tell him why I started dating him and all of that. I didn't tell him the plan. I just said, look, I'm really sorry, but I don't like you anymore. Now, I expected him to get upset, maybe argue with me, leave. He lunged at me and started like, and he's a big guy, remember, and I'm 15, and he's kind of, nothing happened to the extreme, But the reason it didn't happen to the extreme is because my phone rang, and it was my mom telling me that she was on the way home. And when I said that to him, he literally got up and ran out the door, and I never saw him again. And that's me being very honest and very vulnerable, because that's the truth. And I'm not saying it's my fault. I'm not laying the blame on my door. Obviously, he had, he did what he did. But I can see how my opinion of myself at that point had a big part to play in what happened.
Yeah.
I created the perfect storm, and not blaming myself, because again, it's not my fault, but I still see my role in what happened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like 15 is not an age where you're going to make smart choices.
No.
Like your
Although,
brain's not even fully developed.
no, because if you ask any 15-year-old, they wouldn't see it that way, right?
Yeah, well, of course not. But I mean, as an adult, as a 39-year-old, I'm looking at this story and I'm like, well, you're 15, you know? So there would be no point to kind of like think back on yourself and beat yourself up about that. But of course, that's not how the brain works. And I know that, like when there's issues with that self-love, self-worth, it's always something that you should have done differently. You
Yeah,
could have done better. You, and less about somebody who's 21 who really shouldn't even be in a 15-year-old's house. Like,
mm,
let's just start there.
yeah,
He's the oldest person. He should be the mature one. He should be the one that's taking charge of the situation and saying, maybe when you get older. Obviously, he had a low sense of self-worth and himself.
yeah,
Maybe he couldn't get anybody his own age. Who
yeah,
knows?
yeah,
Maybe predators, just like in the wild, they know what their prey is
yeah. Cool.
instinctively.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about like narcissists or psychopaths, sociopaths, people who are actively preying on people, they can sense people who have low sense of self-esteem, self-worth, self-value, because anybody with self-respect is not going to put themselves in situations like
Right.
that.
Of course not. Of course.
So it's really just, I just gotta say, just for you, because I know that you think of things differently now, but I just want to say, when I hear that story, because I think that's probably the first time I've actually ever heard that story. You're not the one that sounds bad. I'm just being honest with you. Like, you're not the one when I hear that story that I'm like, oh wow, she should have known better. No.
I appreciate that. I do. I mean, I say we're both mothers of daughters, and I could see, like, if that happened, God forbid, to either of our daughters. I mean, first of all, we'd rip the guy's head off, but that's by the by. But I can see how it's not the girl's fault. I just recognize at the same time that, like you say, if I'd had, even with kindness and compassion to my 15-year-old self, if I'd had a greater sense of self worth and confidence in myself, I would not have put myself in that situation from the get go.
Yeah.
But of course, I was this, like I say, at 15, you're just not making smart decisions. And I was so needy. I was so like, I have to have a boyfriend. Like, and that really was the impact of it. Like, again, being with somebody was better than being with nobody. And which is ironic now that I've been on my own for like what, 8 years?
I was about to say, how do you feel that you've changed when it comes to men now?
Oh, hugely, hugely. I can say this is the longest time since I've been 15 that I've been single.
Yeah.
And initially, my ego was not happy, right? Even though I came out of a situation, as you know, which was not healthy at all, it was still, my brain was still like, go on a dating app, go and find somebody else, right?
Right.
I mean, dating apps is a whole another podcast because good freaking Lord. But I recognized quite quickly that it just wasn't great. And now what I say to people is I want to meet somebody, sure, but I don't need to meet somebody. I want a relationship, I don't need one. Because I recognize that I have value and worth on my own, and I recognize that I am doing perfectly well by myself. Thank you very much. So now it's like if somebody comes in, they've got to add to my life.
Yeah. First of all, having been somebody who's been on a dating app recently, as you know, like what? a couple of months ago. I would say it's been second, but before that, I've been on dating app in forever. Not great for your self-esteem.
No.
Like dating apps actually they do the reverse of all the work that you've done. And it's like this for everybody. Like it's not just for women. It's like this for men too, because it's like it's so superficial on
Yeah.
dating apps. It's
Yep.
all about your picture. It's all about what that little paragraph says of how can you wow me? How can you reel me in? And it's like it's not the greatest. And I agree with what you said too about doing well on your own. That's one thing that I've noticed because this too has been the longest that I've been single in my life, like since I started dating. I just always seem to have somebody, even when I wasn't really like looking for somebody. Like I seem to always like attract people, you know? Um, and I've noticed how I am doing so freaking good on my own, like in so many ways. Like I'm
Yeah.
doing so much better. So a part of me actually feels bad and pities the guys who approach me because it's like I am a little critical because I don't need drama. I don't need disruption to my peace. I don't need somebody to come in here and make me feel like I'm not good enough in my own world on my own. I'm great enough. I'm perfect, actually, just as I am.
100%.
You know, so if you come in here and all of a sudden I don't do this and I don't do that and I need to do this, it's like,
Yeah.
I just don't feel the need to be something for somebody. Like
No.
in that way. Like if you need me to be there for you because you're having a bad day and you need to have a conversation, yes, I will definitely be that person. If you need a support system, if you need that. But for me to wear high heels, I don't like high heels. It's like the last guy that I was talking to, he had mentioned something. I don't know, it was just a very casual conversation. It was something about how like high heels or something like that. And I'm just like, I don't like high heels. I don't wear high heels. I wear flip flops or I'm barefoot. Like if I was to get married, I probably would wear flip flops with my wedding dress. I don't wear high heels, and I don't feel like I need to wear high heels
Yeah,
to make
absolutely.
somebody feel more attracted to me. I'm not like a short skirt type of person. I like wearing long skirts down to my ankles and long sleeves. I like covering myself up. I don't feel like I should have to wear these short little sporty skirts. I don't feel comfortable with that. I shouldn't
Yeah,
need to do anything to attract somebody,
I totally agree.
you
Totally.
know?
Absolutely. And this is the thing of like women have been sold this and men sold these lies of what we should be and how we should look. And actually the greatest confidence you can ever have, the sexiness, the feeling good, it's all about you feeling good in what you're wearing and that you feel confident is as you are. That there's nothing sexier than that. And it's not about a short skirt. It's not about getting your baps out. It is that you feel good looking like the way you do.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, that's like, because you know how, like, when it comes to like feminism, which I feel like there's a very big stereotypical like thing about feminism where if you are, you're like some kind of weird butch that does doesn't shave your underarms and like you're like you hate men and all that, but really being a feminist is just feeling like women should have exactly the same rights as men have. We should be considered equal. That's it, right? It doesn't go much deeper than that really, unless you want to take it there. But I feel like that angry feminist in me comes out when somebody like mentions like wearing high heels or wearing tights. I'm like, if you like high heels so much, you fucking wear them to the date and I'll open up the door for you, boo. Okay? That's how we can do this. I'll give you a little slap on your ass as you walk by the table. I don't care. If you if you like high heels, you fucking wear them. Okay? Like I don't like it, like it just makes me angry. It reminds me of like when I was younger, which this might be TMI, but when I was younger, my mom was like, "Do you have a bra on? Do you have a bra on? If you don't wear a bra, your boobs are gonna sag. They're gonna sag anyways. They're
For
going
gravity.
to eventually sag anyways. Like if you like bras so much, you wear them. Which I do wear bras, guys. I'm just saying, you know?
For context. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And my feminist nature in me goes, wants to high five you because I fucking love that. But anyway, it's funny. So I wanted to ask you then, was there a moment or was there a period in your life where you realized, hey, I am the most important relationship I'm ever going to have in my life. Wherever I go, I take me with me. let's try and have a better relationship with myself.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been probably several moments, but probably anytime that I've been through something really severe and it's like no one's going to come rushing through the door to make me feel better about myself. I mean, even with the relationship that you and I have, we can only really be there for each other so much.
Yeah,
We are left to our own devices to process and to deal with our lives, you know? And I can't really think of a defining moment. Um, Maybe when I left my son's father and I was on my own, and it just felt like, you know, being away from everybody, being away from family, it was like, wow, like you're really depending on yourself now, you know? And on the good days, on the bad days, it's up to you. And I think also like having children, and especially being a single parent, can really drive that feeling home because now it's not just about you,
yeah,
it's about being somebody for your kids too.
yeah.
Like your kids don't need to see you depressed in bed till 1 o'clock in the afternoon because some guy didn't think you were pretty. Like it's just not the greatest message. Like you know, like they need food and they need substance, and so yeah, I think that having children really does help with that.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, God, and that this is the thing. When I say that I had low self-esteem and low self-worth, I'm talking until I was around the age of around 35, 36. So that's how long I spent in that space. I literally, I could have given you the zip code, the postcode for it because I lived in there. Like that literally was my reality. And people go, well, what changed? And I feel like I had a moment. Someone kind of was like, it would feel like my guides, my angels, what spirit just was like, oh, we got to help this girl out because she's not going to get there on her own. Right. So enough now. So I'm sitting on the couch with my ex, not ex at the time. And I had this thought just kind of plopped into my head. That's why I say it was a moment. It was given to me. And the moment, the thought was something which I genuinely, hand on heart, had never had this thought before in my entire life up to that point. And it changed everything. And it was as simple as this: you are enough as you are. And people go, that changed your life? Yeah, it did, because I'd never thought that before, ever. And
Yeah.
so, of course, then I'm sitting there like a grinning idiot because I'm just like feeling all warm and glowy and tingly of being like, huh, you know? And like, he looked at me and he was like, what's up with you? And I went, oh, nothing, I'm fine.
Like I know you're not used to seeing me smile because I'm not happy here, right? Like it's like one of those things. It's like, why is she so happy? She should be miserable. Yeah. And that's actually it's so it's like such a small thing, but it's like it's like a rock or a pebble dropping into a pond, and the ripple effect of that it makes a bigger impact than you think. You are enough as you are,
Yeah,
because that's what part of the being on the self-love journey is
yeah,
struggling and striving and feeling like you're not good enough and you're not doing enough and you're not being enough, you
yeah,
know.
absolutely. And, I saw something a couple of months ago which made me kind of look at it a different way. When it comes to the personal development, wellness, spiritual community, I think we have to be very careful, for being honest with you, because we constantly see ourselves as, okay, more healing, we've got to work through this, we've got to show up for ourselves, blah, blah, blah. If you always see yourself as a problem that needs fixing, you will never be fully healed.
Yeah.
So I think we have to kind of be aware of that, and that's aside, but I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, it changed everything. And from that point, I used to laugh with people that it wasn't like, okay, I love myself now, I'm all good, right? Because okay, well, I want to learn, and I knew nothing, so I had to go there and do my research, which that I love my research. But my old limiting beliefs, my core beliefs, were really loud. And like I talked about it in the book, like the day after, I banged my toe as soon as I woke up. Then I shouted at the kids. Then I think I burned something, and then I made a mistake at work, and it was like, all of that. I'm just good enough. Just as I am was like, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm like, and it was just like down to earth with the bump. And that's when I realized the thought isn't enough. Now it's a practice. And just like a spiritual practice, it's ongoing. And there are good days where I would say, my good days I'm Beyonce, and my bad days I am Gollum. But on the bad days now, I don't let it spiral me down for months like I used to into this pit of shame. Now I try and do, I'm just having a bad day. And it's
Yeah.
okay. And we'll try again tomorrow.
Yeah. First of all, Beyonce.
I know.
Second of all, I cannot stand that woman. Second of all, I think that the thing is too, is like when you're saying that you're good enough just as you are, it's also reminding yourself that this doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because that's where we get into that problem with like stubbing the toe and shouting at the kids and making mistakes at work and burning food. It's like, it's still running off of that mindset of like, I'm expected to be perfect or I'm not expected to make any mistakes.
Yeah.
And again, that's part of that whole shame spiral, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, as I am. And that means that when I do, and when people watching this, when you do make mistakes, when you do get things wrong, which you will because you're human, that you're still good enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't come with terms and conditions. And I was really shown this. So I used to work really closely with a UK based author called Teresa Chung, and I would do videos on her Facebook page every week about working with angels because she's this mind body spirit writer. And so I was talking about how to connect with angels and how they help me and the power of prayer. Pause, because that was the video that changed things. So these were all in my car, just little videos, nothing major. And I was talking about prayer, whether you call it prayer or affirmations or whatever, your intentions, and putting it out there and connecting with something bigger than yourself. And it got a lot of good feedback, but it's one of those things. If 100 people tell you that you're awesome, you'll go, oh, they're just being nice. If one person tells you that you're crap, that's the one you'll believe, right? So all of these comments, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. And this one woman, who I didn't know, she could have walked past me in the street, I wouldn't know it was her, said in the comment section, I pray your eye gets fixed.
Yeah.
Which, for those that don't know, because that's not something to talk about, I have astigmatism in this eye, which means that this eye is not the same shape or strength as this eye. And it's not really noticeable unless you see it on camera, whether it's a photograph or in video. Everyone's looking at it going, oh yeah. And because it was an insecurity of mine, that really set me into that shame spiral of like going, oh my God, she saw my weakness. Everyone hates me. Right. And then luckily at this point, I was already on the self-love journey. And I realized after a minute or 100, oh, hang on a minute. I'm talking about loving yourself as you are and showing up as you are. This is actually a really invaluable lesson because, okay, I can't just show the bits and be proud of the bits that I like. If I'm good enough as I am, I have to do all of the bits, even the smaller bits or the wobblier bits or the bigger bits. They're all worthy. They're all deserving of love because they're all me.
Well, of course, she, as you already said, she went after one thing that you were highly
Yeah,
insecure about. This is, something that I've been dealing with, as you know, comments and people
yeah,
on social media. Because I've gotten some of the most vilest comments that anybody, like I've had like real life bullies at work. Like I've had real life bullies in my family. I've had a lot of stuff, but I've never had people talk to me the way that I've had strangers on the internet talk to me since I've been doing content creating. I mean, I've seen comments of the way you act and the way you speak is pathetic. Saying your hands look really fat. Just all kinds of stuff. I think I even had one time somebody wishing sickness on my kids. One thing that I've really had to come to terms with, which has severely helped my own sense of self-love, and it's so ironic that we're talking about this because I had just mentioned this in the reading that I had put out for the full moon, is that not everybody is going to like you. And some people are not going to give positive feedback. In fact, I had a very strong moment where I feel like Spirit directly was speaking to me and explaining to me. I need you to understand that people who come in the comments to wound are the most wounded on the planet. They are broken. They are hurting. And does this discount what they're saying, hurting other people? No. But you, as the elevated being, I need you to understand that these people are coming from a place of extreme brokenness and hurt. Imagine how broken you need to be to make somebody else feel bad about themselves, to feel a little bit of joy in your life. Pity them, pray for them, wish healing for them because they are broken.
Yeah.
And it's your responsibility as somebody who can see beyond that to send that light out. And of course, there's people who probably will watch this and roll their eyes and be like, no, if somebody does that, I'm going to tell them you, which that's how I used to be too. But I see now the brokenness in people who harm just for the sake of harming. And it makes me sad.
Yeah.
It makes me pity people like that. That you get no joy in your life and the only joy you can get is trying to make somebody else feel bad. I feel sorry for you. Like you probably need a hug, right? Like if anything. So it's really tough. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm like, I've got this whole thing figured out. Yes, when I see negative comments, of course, they still upset me because I'm human. But I try not to take them so personally anymore, you know?
Absolutely, which is huge growth on your part. Huge. And really very, very proud of you for doing that because it's not easy. You know, when you tell me stuff like that, I want to come over on my bloody kayak and smack a bit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how
Yeah.
dare you feel like that?
I mean, I feel the same way when people say things to you. Like it really upsets me. And you've said it a couple times, so I want to say it back to you. Like I see your growth too. You have definitely grown. I think both of us together on our journey, like we're completely different people than when we first met each other.
Oh God, yeah.
Completely different.
Not just with like our life situations, but personally, we are completely different people. You know, if you and I could have like zipped forwards in time when we first met and saw where we are now, we'd be shocked.
I would be, I think, with how I handle things
Yeah.
now and just, the way I think about things. Yes, it's just, but that's part of growing,
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's that thing of, don't live in the past. We can't change it. It is what it is. But yeah, I think it helps sometimes, as you spoke about last time or time before, to acknowledge your journey and to just see how far you've come and to see what you've been through and everything you've accomplished. And it does give you a sense of pride. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being proud of yourself. You know, sometimes if you wait for other people to be proud of you and to say something and to say it the right way that you put in your brain, you could be waiting forever and you can feel disappointed. So we got to clap for ourselves first, and it's important to acknowledge your growth and how far you've come. And so I'm glad that we can try and give that to each other, and hopefully by extension give it to ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that, like, for anybody who's watching this right now, and they're like, okay, well, I want to love myself more. How do I do that? I think the most important thing to understand is it's not a switch that you can just turn off. You're not going to just wake up one day and be like, well, I love myself now, and all my woes and problems of the past are suddenly gone. It's a daily thing that you have to remind yourself of. You have to continue to instill in your habits and how you speak to yourself, how you think about yourself.
Yeah.
But I would say that the biggest thing is what you had said. You're enough just as you are in every single moment. Of course, if you do things that you shouldn't, like how I would really go in on people in the past and cuss people out and just be completely vile, correct that behavior, but do it from a place of love with
Yeah.
not shaming yourself because you're human.
100%, because the minute you put judgment and shame into that of I should, and anyone who knows me knows how I feel about the word should, because should is could with shame, you're just adding more stuff on the table to work through.
Yeah.
Right? We have to try and give ourselves the same grace and kindness and compassion and patience that we so willingly give to other people.
Yeah, one of the things, like, because I've had a lot of clients come to me and they'll be like, well, Jessica, how do I speak to myself better? And I tell them, how would you speak to a child? Would you tell a child that they're fat and they're ugly and they're stupid and they're worthless and they're never going to amount to anything? Not if you're a good person, you wouldn't.
Exactly.
So
And yet
don't
we do
speak
it
to
to
yourself
ourselves
that way.
constantly. I
Yeah.
always say nobody can be as horrible to you as you are to yourself inside your own brain.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why I've said it on this podcast several times. Like for people who think that they can come for me in the comments, like, honey, amateur, because because nobody knows how to disrespect me like I've disrespected me. So good try though. But yeah, that's my advice for people of how to start speaking to yourself or being patient with yourself is treat yourself like you are a child. And actually, in turn, it's kind of shooting two birds with one stone. You're going to actually heal some of your inner child stuff too, doing that.
You really are. You really are. How are we doing for time? Okay.
Probably
Look,
need to go soon.
I know you do. It's why I thought I'd have a look because Jess got stuff to do. But look, this is obviously it's such a big topic, and we were never going to cover it all in this space. But we hope that we've at least given you something to think about, talking points. If this is something that really does hit home, reach out, and we're happy to continue the conversation. And yeah, just always just be kind to yourself. The world is rough enough as it is without you adding more crap to the table.
Exactly. Um, I know that it's my turn to pick, but I honestly don't have anything in mind yet. So we will think about that and we'll just have to get back to you guys on that one.
It's mystery hour.
It's mystery. Me and you will probably talk about it and I'll probably get your input because honestly, I'm just not sure.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we'll have a chat, and yeah, it'll be a nice surprise for people. So
yeah.
yeah, but look, guys, as ever, thank you for watching this. We hope that it's been an interesting chat and it's given you something, like I say, to take away. And let us know in the comments your thoughts and your experiences. We really appreciate you. But thank you for being here. Honestly, honestly, your support means the world to us, and we love you so much. Self-love and viewer love at the same time.
It's all love, right?
All love. It's all good. Thank you guys so much. Take care of yourselves. Have a great week, and we will see you again on the next one. Bye.